Hey horror fans! Welcome back to Globewise Entertainment, your ultimate destination for everything movies, TV, and hidden gems from Hollywood's past and present. Today we're diving deep into the shadows to uncover 15 80s slasher sleepers, those underrated horror flicks packed with chills, kills, and thrills that you probably haven't seen yet. If you love discovering lost classics and cult favorites, make sure to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment right now so you never miss our weekly movie dives and behind-the-scenes stories. And before we jump in, tell us in the comments below, which 80s slasher movie is your all-time favorite? We want to know. Alright, sharpen your knives and grab your popcorn. Let's get into it. 1. Hell Night, 1981. Hell Night follows a group of college students who must spend a night in a supposedly haunted mansion as part of a fraternity initiation ritual. The mansion, known as the Belasco House, has a dark and violent history. Decades earlier, a wealthy family was brutally murdered inside its walls, and local legend says the mansion is cursed or haunted by the vengeful spirits of its victims. The story centers around Marty Gaines, played by Linda Blair, a strong-willed and resourceful young woman, and her boyfriend Jeff. Along with two other pledges, they are sent to survive one night in the eerie and decrepit mansion as their Hell Night test. As night falls, what begins as a spooky dare quickly turns into a nightmare. The group soon realizes the house isn't empty. A mysterious and terrifying figure lurks in the shadows. The killer is a mentally unstable man, deeply disturbed by the history of the house and determined to kill anyone who dares enter. Throughout the night, the students are hunted one by one in the mansion's dark corridors, hidden rooms, and basement tunnels. Tensions rise as paranoia grows. Trust breaks down, alliances form, and survival instincts kick in. Marty, who has a tough but compassionate personality, becomes the final girl, using her wits and courage to outsmart the relentless killer. The suspense builds as she confronts the villain in a climactic showdown in the house's labyrinthine basement. Hell Night is praised for its effective atmosphere, blending haunted house creepiness with classic slasher thrills. The movie stands out because of its suspenseful pacing, realistic characters, and the haunting setting that feels like a character itself. 2. The Prowler, 1981. A World War II-era nightmare returns. Imagine a quiet, sleepy town preparing for its 4th of July celebrations. The air is filled with the scent of fireworks, barbecue, and a sense of small-town Americana, until the past comes back with a vengeance. The Prowler opens with a chilling flashback to the end of World War II. A young woman is brutally murdered by a mysterious killer dressed in a military uniform, a soldier who's both ruthless and relentless. His face is hidden behind a gas mask, his identity unknown. This haunting prologue sets the tone for the film's blend of historical menace and modern-day terror. Cut to the present day, 35 years later, and the town's residents are blissfully unaware that the nightmare from the past is about to rise again. The story follows a group of college students staying in an old house for the holiday weekend. Among them is Pam, a young woman who finds herself increasingly unnerved as the idyllic summer fun turns dark. One by one, the students become targets of a shadowy figure lurking in the night, the Prowler. He stalks them with a terrifying blend of patience and brutality, wielding an army bayonet that pierces and slashes with chilling precision. The killer moves like a ghost, blending into the darkness, always watching, always waiting. What makes the Prowler stand out isn't just its gruesome kills, but the way it uses atmosphere and tension. The movie's cinematography captures the eerie silence of the night, punctuated by the crackle of distant fireworks and the rustling of leaves. Tom Savini's legendary special effects bring the kills to life with visceral, unforgettable detail that still shocks decades later. As the body count rises, Pam unravels the mystery behind the killer's identity, a terrifying connection to the town's dark past and the bloodshed that began long ago. The final confrontation is a desperate fight for survival, blending suspense, horror, and a twisted sense of justice. The Prowler is a slow-burning, suspenseful slasher that rewards patient viewers with a haunting atmosphere and some of the most brutally creative kills of the era. It's a perfect example of an 80s slasher sleeper, overlooked when it first came out, but now cherished by horror fans who appreciate its mix of history, horror, and heart-pounding terror. 3. The Initiation 1984, a dark rite of blood and secrets. In the mid-1980s, when sorority-themed slashers were still finding their place in horror, The Initiation carved out a shadowy niche with its eerie atmosphere and twisted secrets. The story centers on Suzanne Andrews, a young woman haunted by her past and desperate to start fresh at college. But instead of the new beginning she hopes for, Suzanne finds herself caught in a deadly game masked as a sorority initiation. It all begins with Suzanne deciding to join the prestigious sorority Alpha Sigma Theta, a step she hopes will help her forget the tragic trauma from her childhood, an incident involving her twin sister that still haunts her nights. But as Suzanne and her sorority sisters embark on the initiation night, they find themselves locked inside a sprawling department store after hours, a labyrinth of fluorescent-lit aisles and empty shelves turning from mundane to menacing. What starts as pranks and dares quickly spirals into something far more sinister. A shadowy figure begins stalking the women, wielding a knife and wearing a mask that hides a shocking connection to Suzanne's own past. Each kill ratchets up the tension, and Suzanne's own memories come flooding back. Secrets about her family, betrayals, and a childhood that wasn't as innocent as it seemed. The killer's identity is a mystery until the final moments, twisting expectations and keeping viewers guessing with its mix of psychological torment and physical threat. The department store, normally a symbol of consumerism and fun, transforms into a claustrophobic maze of fear where no one is safe. The Initiation stands out because it blends classic slasher suspense with a deeper emotional undercurrent. Suzanne isn't just running from a killer, she's running from her own trauma, and the film's layers of mystery keep the story gripping beyond the typical slasher tropes. Though it never got the mainstream recognition of some of its contemporaries, The Initiation is a quietly effective 1980s sleeper, a stylish and suspenseful horror film with a haunting score, memorable kills, and a story that explores the dark side of sisterhood and secrets. 4. Intruder 1989. Imagine this. It's the dead of night inside a suburban grocery store, long after closing hours. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly overhead, and the aisles are eerily silent except for the faint hum of refrigerators. A group of employees are finishing up their last chores, cleaning, restocking, and preparing for the next day. Everything seems routine, almost boring, until the power suddenly cuts out. In the darkness, a sinister presence lurks. Intruder wastes no time throwing you into a claustrophobic, tense nightmare. The killer's identity is hidden behind a gas mask, and their weapon of choice is a brutal meat cleaver, perfectly fitting for the chilling setting of a grocery store filled with sharp knives and heavy machinery. The story revolves around these employees, trapped inside the store with no way out, being picked off one by one. The killer's attacks are brutal, often inventive, and brutally visceral, making good use of the everyday tools found in the store, from meat hooks to conveyor belts. What sets Intruder apart from many other slashers is its darkly atmospheric setting, and the way it creates a sense of dread in such a mundane place. The store's cold, industrial vibe becomes a character itself, claustrophobic, dangerous, and full of lurking threats. Behind the scenes, the film was a passion project from the Raimi brothers, Sam and Ted Raimi, who added a flair for creative kills and a pulpy sense of humor beneath the horror. If you know their style from movies like Evil Dead, you can spot their signature touches here, both in the suspense building and the occasionally over-the-top gore. By the time the credits roll, Intruder leaves you with that adrenaline-pumping mix of fear and satisfaction, because it takes something as ordinary as a grocery store and turns it into a nightmare no one wants to face. If you haven't seen Intruder, you're missing a rare late 80s slasher gem that's equal parts creative, chilling, and soaked in blood. 5. The Mutilator 1984. A bloody beach nightmare. Picture this. A group of carefree college students head off for a sun-soaked weekend at a remote beach house, ready for fun, laughter, and a break from their daily lives. But beneath the warm sand and crashing waves lies a nightmare they could never have imagined. Our story centers around Kevin, a typical young guy looking forward to a relaxing holiday with his friends. But lurking in the shadows is a terrifying secret tied to his own family, A secret that will turn this vacation into a gruesome fight for survival. Kevin's father, a once respected man with a dark past, has been driven to madness. Haunted by his own demons and twisted memories, he becomes a relentless and brutal killer, wielding a machete with deadly precision. As the sun sets and the fun fades, the friends find themselves hunted one by one, each victim facing horrific and bloody deaths that send shockwaves through the group. What makes The Mutilator stand out from your typical slasher fare is its raw, unfiltered violence and the chilling atmosphere of isolation. The idyllic beach setting becomes a cage of terror, where no one is safe, not even Kevin, who must confront the horrifying truth about his family and try to survive his father's savage rampage. From savage axe wounds to shocking twists, The Mutilator delivers all the gore and suspense 80s slasher fans crave, with an edge of psychological torment that lingers long after the credits roll. If you're in the mood for a brutal, gritty slasher that combines family horror with beachside bloodshed, The Mutilator is the hidden gem you need to discover. 6 Slaughter High 1986. The Revenge of the Class Outcast. Imagine being the kid everyone bullied in high school, the one who got humiliated in the cruelest way possible, with no chance for revenge or redemption. That's exactly what happens in Slaughter High, a dark and twisted slasher that dives deep into the scars left by teenage cruelty. Our story starts with a group of high school students planning a reunion, but this is no ordinary get-together. Years earlier, during their senior year, they played a terrible prank on their classmate Marty Rantzen. What should have been harmless fun ended in horror. Marty was locked inside a locker during a fire drill and almost died in the blaze. The bullies never faced consequences, until now. Fast forward to the reunion night. Marty, presumed to be gone from their lives forever, surprises everyone by showing up, and he's out for bloody revenge. The group finds themselves trapped inside their old high school, now abandoned and cold. But it's not just a reunion anymore, it's a nightmare. One by one, Marty picks off his tormentors using brutal and inventive kills, turning the school into a deadly trap filled with suspense and fear. The familiar halls that once echoed with laughter now echo with screams. The survivors realize that the real horror wasn't just the prank, it was what it unleashed. Slaughter High stands out because it combines classic slasher elements with a psychological revenge plot, making it more than just a typical kill fest. The film's eerie atmosphere, bleak humor, and gory moments make it a cult favorite that horror fans cherish, especially those who love stories about vengeance and justice served cold. So if you haven't yet ventured into the halls of Slaughter High, get ready for a ride where high school nightmares come back to haunt and kill. 7 Stage Fright, 1987. Italian Deliria. Theater of Terror. Imagine the excitement of a small theater troupe preparing for their big break. A new musical ready to open, dreams high, and nerves stretched thin. It's opening night and backstage, the actors are buzzing with energy and anticipation. But lurking in the shadows is a presence far more sinister than stage fright. Stage fright, also known by its original Italian title Deliria, takes place in a dimly lit theater where a masked killer, wearing a haunting owl mask, begins stalking the cast and crew. The story unfolds in a claustrophobic world of dressing rooms, dark corridors, and flickering stage lights, where no one is safe once the killer starts striking. The plot centers on a young singer named Deborah, who dreams of fame but soon finds herself trapped in a nightmare. As her fellow performers begin to disappear one by one, panic spreads backstage. Everyone is a suspect, paranoia grows, and the lines between reality and the madness of the play blur. What makes Stage Fright stand out is its eerie mix of classic Italian giallo style, a genre known for its stylish visuals, colorful murder scenes, and psychological twists, with American slasher tropes. The killer's owl mask adds an unforgettable, surreal touch, making every scene dripping with suspense and dread. Behind the camera, director Michele Soavi, a protege of horror legend Dario Argento, delivers a film that balances gore, mystery, and atmosphere. The kills are inventive and brutal, the suspense tight, and the setting a perfect breeding ground for terror. Stage Fright didn't get much mainstream attention outside Italy when it was released, but over the years it's become a cult favorite for horror fans who love a stylish, chilling, and theatrical slasher that feels like a nightmare you can't wake up from. If you're hunting for an 80s slasher that combines creepy masks, backstage chaos, and a killer with a flair for the dramatic stage fright, is the hidden gem that's waiting in the wings. 8. Mountaintop Motel Massacre, 1983. Beware the motel where the doors creak, the walls whisper, and your hostess might be carrying a sickle. Let me take you back to the deep swampy woods of rural Louisiana. It's the early 80s, and nestled in the dense greenery, far from any highway or helpful town, is a rickety, run-down little place called the Mountaintop Motel. Don't let the name fool you. There are no mountains, and there's certainly no comfort. This place is run by an elderly woman named Evelyn, who just got out of a mental institution. She's strange, quiet, always mumbling to herself. You see, Evelyn has a tragic past. Years ago, her daughter died under mysterious circumstances, burned alive supposedly in a terrible accident. But some say Evelyn had a hand in it. And if that weren't enough to unsettle you, she hears voices. Voices she thinks are from God, telling her to cleanse the sinners who dare stay at her motel. One stormy night, as rain lashes the windows and lightning cracks across the southern sky, a handful of unlucky strangers pull into Evelyn's motel, travelers hoping to escape the storm. There's a preacher trying to find peace, a newlywed couple seeking a quiet start to their marriage, a slick-talking salesman, and a lonely young woman escaping something unspeakable. Each one checks into their own tiny cabin, unaware that the kind old woman who handed them their room key is secretly crawling beneath the floorboards, peeking up through trapdoors she's built herself, ready to strike. As night falls, Evelyn begins her purging. Wielding a sickle and armed with biblical delusions, she unleashes horror through the tunnels beneath the motel, popping up like a ghost from the past, and slashing her way through the guests in grotesque, surreal fashion. What makes Mountaintop Motel Massacre stand out isn't just its kills. It's the atmosphere. The humid, claustrophobic setting of the backwoods motel, the creaking of floorboards, and the eerily calm presence of Evelyn create a sense of dread that creeps up your spine. And Evelyn herself? She's not your average slasher villain. She's not masked. She's not silent. She's terrifyingly real. A portrait of madness, grief, and unchecked delusion. Despite its low budget and grindhouse feel, the film has earned a cult following for its weird mix of Southern Gothic horror, psychological decay, and offbeat pacing. It's the kind of movie that makes you triple-check your motel room floor before you sleep. Why you probably haven't seen it. Released in 1983 with minimal fanfare, and re-released by Roger Corman's New World Pictures 2 years later, Mountaintop Motel Massacre was overshadowed by bigger names like Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. But for slasher fans willing to get a little grimy and weird, this film offers something uniquely unsettling. Tagline-worthy ending. Check in if you dare. But remember, she's always watching from beneath the floor. 9. Blood Rage 1987. The Thanksgiving slasher you never saw coming. On a warm Thanksgiving evening in 1974, at a drive-in theater just outside Jacksonville, Florida, a pair of mischievous twin boys sneak out of their car while their mother gets a little too cozy with her boyfriend in the front seat. The twins, Terry and Todd, couldn't be more different, but no one could have predicted how darkly their paths would split. As the neon lights flicker and horror flicks play on the big screen, something terrible happens. A brutal axe murder shakes the sleepy drive-in, and Terry coolly wipes the blood from his hands before handing the weapon to his innocent brother, Todd. Todd, in shock and unable to speak for himself, is blamed for the crime and institutionalized. Terry, meanwhile, grows up in the shadow of the secret he buried, pretending to be the good son, hiding the monster within. Years later, Todd escapes from the asylum on Thanksgiving night, triggering a terrifying return of the past. But here's the twist. Terry's the real killer, and now that his hidden world is cracking open, his bloodlust boils over. What follows is a rampage of carnage through a sleepy suburban apartment complex. Cranberry sauce and corpses, anyone? With an icy calm and twisted charm, Terry slices through neighbors, friends, and anyone who gets too close to the truth. Meanwhile, Todd races against time, desperate to confront his brother and clear his name, before the holiday feast becomes a full-blown massacre. Why it's a sleeper. Blood Rage was shot in 1983 but didn't see a proper release until 1987, and even then it was buried in VHS obscurity. It's a rare Thanksgiving-themed slasher, dripping with 80s-style absurd dialogue, that's not cranberry sauce, and surprisingly effective gore. The dual role played by Mark Soper as both Todd and Terry is genuinely eerie, and Louise Lasser of Mary Hartman fame plays their unraveling mother in one of the strangest, most unsettling performances in slasher history. Today, Blood Rage is beloved by cult horror fans for its over-the-top kills, creepy suburban setting, synthy score, and the kind of twisted family drama that could only come from the darkest corners of the 80s. 10. Madman 1981. The Legend of Madman Mars. Gather round the campfire, kids, because this is one story you're not supposed to say out loud. It all starts at a secluded summer camp deep in the woods, where the air feels heavier after dark and the wind whispers old warnings through the trees. The counselors and kids sit around a crackling fire, the flames dancing as stories are told. One tale, though, chills everyone to the bone. It's the legend of Madman Mars. They say Mars was a farmer who lived in a house nearby. A cruel, violent man who murdered his entire family with an axe in a fit of rage. The townspeople finally caught him and hanged him from a tree, but when they came back in the morning, his body was gone, and the murders never stopped. The storyteller warns, never speak his name above a whisper, or he'll hear you, and he'll come. Of course, there's always one fool in every horror story. A cocky counselor stands up and mockingly shouts the name, Madman Mars. His voice echoes into the woods like a taunt. And with that, something stirs in the shadows. What follows is a chilling night of terror as one by one, the counselors are stalked and butchered in the dark by a hulking feral figure. His face twisted and disfigured, his weapon of choice a massive axe. Mars doesn't run. He lurks. He waits. He lets the fear spread before the killing starts. The forest becomes a maze. Cabins aren't safe. Cars won't start. Radios crackle with static instead of help. And as the bodies disappear into the night, the legend becomes horrifyingly real. The remaining survivors try to fight back, but how do you stop something that may not even be human anymore? Madman isn't just a murderer, he's a ghost, a monster, a myth with a very real axe. Why it's a sleeper. Madman was released in 1981, the same year as heavy hitters like The Burning and Friday the 13th Part 2, and it sadly got buried beneath the buzz. But what it lacks in polish, it makes up for in atmosphere, creepy lighting, synthy score, and a killer that feels like a backwoods urban legend come to life. Over time, it's become a cult favorite for horror fans who love isolated settings, eerie folklore, and that perfect 80s slasher formula, complete with screaming final girls in fog-drenched forests. So next time you're alone in the woods, remember, don't say his name, don't look for him, and whatever you do, don't call out to Madman Mars. That's a wrap on our countdown of 15 80s slasher sleepers you probably haven't seen yet. Which one surprised you the most? Or maybe you've got a favorite hidden gem we didn't mention. If you haven't already, subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more deep dives into movies, Hollywood secrets, and cult classics you won't want to miss. Drop your favorite 80s slasher movie in the comment box below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more cinematic adventures.